Hello and welcome to another episode of Laser Cut Geekery. Today I am making a Zelda shield, or the Hyrule Shield, Hylian Shield, whatever the heck you want to call it. Now, it's not obviously an actual prop replica because this thing is made out of wood and it is flat and it is not nearly big enough to be a shield. It's just kind of decorative wall stuff. I think I went with the Twilight Princess version of the Hylian Shield, but they're all kind of variations of the same basic thing, so it really didn't make that big of a difference. Now the material that I use is 12 by 12 inch quarter-inch plywood. So in order to make it as large as I could, given my material, I tilted it to the side. I have to admit that this does cause something that I don't particularly like. It means that the grain of the wood is at an angle. So there are times when I've seriously debated not doing this, and I'm not sure which I value more, the fact that it's a tiny bit larger this way, or the fact that if I didn't do this, then it would be not tilted. But, but whatever. This is what I did this time. Maybe I'll do it differently next time. So I use 2 layers of wood. Now the base layer, as I said, is quarter inch, but the second layer is actually cut out of 1/8 inch plywood. The base is a solid shield shape, but I also etch in lines of where all the shapes go just so that I know where to put them when I go to glue them down. And then the second one is actually all the little bits cut out. When it is done being cut out, I take all the bits and pieces and I go over and I sand them with my radial sander. I will be painting these with spray paint, but I like to make sure it's as smooth as possible beforehand just so that I get a nice smooth finish. Now the silver border stuff, I use a metallic spray paint. All of the rest I use just like a normal spray paint, and I'm able to polyurethane the normal bits, but the metallic spray paint cannot be polyurethane, because if you try to polyurethane this stuff, it smears and does bad things. It doesn't like polyurethane, so I can't do that. I have to do 2 layers. But everything else, I will set them out and I will spray paint them until I've got a nice even coat, and I will let that dry. And then I go off and poly them. But first I have to spray paint all of the bits, including the back. Now, like I said, had to let everything dry. But then I went over everything with a 400 grit sandpaper. And I did this lightly, because, I don't want to, actually sand the paint off, and this stuff isn't super thickly applied, so I'm doing this very lightly. Basically, I'm trying to get rid of that very fine, rough texture that you always get on the top of any kind of fresh paint coat. And then, of course, I go through and I polyurethane everything. Well, everything except for the silver stuff. Now for the silver bits, I sanded it like you saw, but then I went in and I put on a second coat of silver, just to make sure it was smooth underneath, and this gets as close to the shine for the silver metallic stuff as I can get in comparison to the rest of it, which is just shiny. And more fine sanding, just trying to get that surface to be as smooth to the touch as possible. Now with the back of the shield, you can see how shiny gets, but when it's wet shiny versus when it's dry shiny, obviously not the same thing, but it's surprising how shiny you can get it, as long as you've sanded it beforehand. Now with other stuff, when I'm not using this kind of spray paint, I usually do 2 coats of polyurethane. I will put down a first coat, and that seeps into the wood. It soaks into the porous nature of the wood, and I have to let that dry and then sand it, and then I can put a second coat of polyurethane, and that one will be shiny. But the spray paint actually serves as a pretty good sealant on its own, so I usually only have to do 1 coat of poly for these, which is nice. And And when all of the pieces are finally done, I can glue it together. I just use plain old wood glue, and then I clamp things so that they're, flush and they actually secure to each other. And last is just putting on the hardware. Now, obviously, this is a flat piece of wood, not a shield, and it is intended to just go up on the wall, so all I really do is put a wall hook on the thing. You'll notice the thing I just put on there is a neodymium magnet. That's one of those, life hack things. You stick a magnet on your screwdriver, and then the screws will stick to it. It's nice. And here it is actually on the wall, so it's up there. But that wasn't quite a good enough picture, so let's go ahead and take some nice photos in the bathroom that has nice daylight light bulbs and looks pretty. And we're done! I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, and all that stuff that people say at the end of YouTube videos. You can also visit me on Etsy, where I sell things like this and lots of other neat, snazzy things. And I think that's it, so I'm going to stop rambling and leave you to it. Bye-bye.